Hello dear students, this is Mohammad Shahnawaz, assistant teacher at Jalalabad BL High School, Dakhishurma, Sylhet. Today I am going to discuss on a very important topic. Before going to the topic, I would like to ask you a question. How many questions are there in English grammar? Perhaps you may answer that there are two types of questions. One is the WH question and other is yes/no question. But do you know there is another type of question? Perhaps it's not popularly considered as the question because it is dependent on a statement. I think you have already guessed that what is our today's topic. Yes, our today's topic is tag question. Today we will learn how to add a tag question with a statement. Please stay with me. Dear students, before going to learn to add a tag question with a statement, let's see how many tag questions are there. Let's see. There are two types of questions. One is affirmative question and the other is negative question. And the structure of the affirmative tag question is auxiliary verb plus subject, and the structure of negative tag question is auxiliary verb and apostrophe T plus subject. Now it's a question, when will you use affirmative tag question and when will you use negative tag question? It will depend on the statement. If the statement is affirmative, the tag question will be negative, and if the statement is negative, tag question will be affirmative. Let's try an example. Dear students, I have written two sentences here. Rahim is a student. Rahim is not a student. The first one is the affirmative statement and the second one is the negative statement. Now we will try to add tag question with the first statement. What have I said before? If the statement is affirmative, the tag question will be negative. And for a question, first of all, we need an auxiliary verb. But it's a question, which auxiliary verb will be used for the tag question? Yes, the auxiliary verb is available here. We have to try to find out from this sentence whether there is any auxiliary verb in the statement or not. We can see there is an auxiliary verb in this sentence. You can see is the verb and is a be verb. So we can use this be verb as the auxiliary verb for the tag question. So we can use is here, and as the statement is affirmative, tag question will be negative. So we will add not with the auxiliary verb. And another very important thing is that for the tag question, in the tag question, the auxiliary verb and the not, auxiliary verb and not should be written in contraction form. So we have to use an apostrophe T, isn't, not is not. We have to write isn't. Why? A very important characteristic of tag question is you have to write the contraction form of auxiliary verb and not. So we have written isn't. And last of all, we have to write the subject. From where will you get the subject? Yes, we will get the subject from the statement. You can see there is already a subject, it is Rahim. But it's a question, will you use Rahim as it is as the subject of the tag question? No. One thing you have to remember, for tag question, you must write the pronoun form of the noun. Rahim is the noun, but when we will write the subject of tag question, we have to write the pronoun form. It will be he. So, Rahim is a student. If we would like to add a tag question with this sentence, it will be isn't he? It will be isn't he? Rahim is a student, isn't he? Okay, let's try to the next sentence. Rahim is not a student. To make a tag question, we need an auxiliary verb first. Is there any auxiliary verb? Yes, there is an auxiliary verb, is. Be verb can be used as the auxiliary verb for the tag question. So we can use is here. Will you add an apostrophe T with is? No. Why not? Because this statement is negative. So the tag question will be affirmative. If the statement is negative, tag question will be affirmative. That's why we will not add not or an apostrophe T with the auxiliary verb. We have to write the subject directly. The subject is Rahim, but can we use Rahim here? No, because we have to write the pronoun form. That's why I have written he. So if the statement is Rahim is not a student, the tag question will be is he? Rahim is not a student, is he? Dear students, I told you earlier that in the tag question we have to write the pronoun form of the subject. But it's a question when which pronoun will be used. Look at the list. Subject of the statement and the subject of tag question. If the subject of the statement is male person and if it is singular, you have to write he as the subject of the tag question. If the subject of the statement is a female person and if it is singular, you have to write she as the subject of the tag question. If the person or thing is plural, you have to write they as the subject of the tag question. If there is body, body or one, that means everybody, everyone, somebody, someone, nobody, no one, etc., etc. If there is any body or one, you have to write they as the subject of the tag question. If there is thing, that means anything, everything, etc., you have to use it as the subject of the tag question. And if there is person other than a person, if the subject is other than a person or a thing, and if it is singular, you have to write it is the subject of the tag question. So you have learnt which auxiliary verb will be used, which subject will be used as the subject of the tag question. Dear students, I have written another example here. I know her. If we want to add a tag question with a statement, first of all we need to write the auxiliary verb. And from where will you get this auxiliary verb? Definitely we will get this auxiliary verb from the statement. But if is there any auxiliary verb in this sentence? No, there is no auxiliary verb because there is a single verb in this sentence. It is no. In this sentence, actually there is no auxiliary verb. Now, what should we do? If there is no auxiliary verb in the statement, what should we do? One thing you have to remember, if there is no auxiliary verb, we have to use do, did, does as the auxiliary verb of the tag question. Now it's a question, which auxiliary verb will be used and when? If the main verb is in present form, you have to use do or does. If the main verb is in past form, you have to write did. You can see, I know her in this sentence, the main verb is in present form, so we can use do or does. Here we will use do. Why? As S or ES is not added with the principal verb. If S or ES is added with the principal verb, we have to use does as the auxiliary verb. But if S or ES is not added with the principal verb, we will not use does. Here we will use do. That's why I have written do as the auxiliary verb here. Then we have to think whether the tag question will be affirmative or negative. It will depend on the statement. If the statement is affirmative, tag question will be negative. You can see, I know her. This sentence is affirmative. That's why tag question will be negative. So we have to use an apostrophe T with do. And again, I would like to remind you that you have to write the contraction form of auxiliary verb and not for the tag question. That's why I have written don't. And last of all, you have to write the subject. For the subject, you can see the subject of the statement is I. So the subject of the tag question will be also I. Why? Because I is in pronoun form. So it will be written directly. Dear students, let's try to add tag question with another statement. Everybody loves him. If we would like to add a tag question with this statement, first of all we need an auxiliary verb. But in this sentence you can see there is no auxiliary verb. There is the main verb loves, and S is added with the principal verb. That's why we can use does as the auxiliary verb. Okay, then this sentence is affirmative, tag question will be negative. So we can use doesn't. And last of all, we have to write what? The subject. But if there is dot dot body, we have to write they. Do you think this tag question is correct? No. This tag question is not correct. Why? Because I have already written they here. For they, can we use does? No. For they, we can't use does. They, does is not related to they. We have to use do. For they, we have to use do. According to the agreement of subject and verb, we can't use does after they. We have to use do. That's why we can't use doesn't here. We have to correct it and we have to write don't they. I think you have understand why I have written don't here. Why? Because the subject is they. If the subject is they, for they, doesn't is not appropriate. For they, do is appropriate. That's why we have to use don't they. Dear students, today we try to learn how to add tag question with the statement. I think you have learned something from my class, and I would like to request you practice again and again in your home and try to watch my next video. Till then, bye bye.